Can you describe a recent challenge that you've had in your clinic and how you've overcome that?
So recently, I think, as most of us have experienced at some point, we had a team member that left or gave her resignation. Now, it was a really difficult situation for me at the time because this team member had, in the weeks previous, let me know that she'd booked 8 weeks of holiday, booked her flights, hotels, tours, everything, without checking with me if that was going to be okay. And she didn't have any annual leave. So she wanted to take all of this as unpaid leave. And me trying to create a win-win, sort of channeling Shane Davis a little bit, had spent quite a bit of time with this team member talking through how could we make this work for both the clinic and for her. Spoken to HR, we've been talking to the accountant, how could we make this happen? And on the Friday, we'd come up with a plan, an agreement about how we were going to make it work. All signed off, plan done. And then on the Monday, she came in and resigned. Can you imagine how I was feeling? Right?
Does anyone relate to this kind of situation? Yeah, got some hands up, absolutely. What did you do?
Well, I was furious. I was absolutely furious.
Right.
Yeah.
Did she know you were furious?
I hope not.
Okay. And I guess that speaks to the topic of what we're talking about, maintaining calm. How do you maintain calm in those sorts of situations?
And this was it was a tricky one because my immediate reaction was I wanted to say what I was thinking. But what I decided to do at that point was to thank her for letting me know and let her know that I would get back to her or we'd meet later on in the day to have a chat about what to do next. So what I needed to do was really give myself that time, like a pause, to actually stop, let the emotion that I was experiencing, that anger, that I wanted to strangle her really, but give myself time to actually calm down. So pause was one thing that, I needed to do. But then after that, what I did is I really thought about, okay, like let's step back from this situation a minute and let's think about what's the outcome that I would like to have here. Generally when someone leaves, we want someone to leave on good terms. We want to make the conclusion experience the best that it can be so that when they do leave, they're, telling people about what an amazing clinic we are instead of that my owner tried to strangle me. Yeah.
That's quite a good principle. If you're writing notes, probably a good little nugget to write down there. We always end well, and that's been a principle that you've worked with. How do you end well when these are the situations? How can you create that positive situation for someone?
I think it's coming back again to sort of what are the values of the clinic and making sure that you're sort of acting in ways that are consistent with that and follow the normal process that you would do. Yeah. So it was really, it's about collaborating, it's about supporting, the team member to end well and make sure that clients are okay too was one of the main things there, yeah.
So we got the situation.
Yep.
Feeling a little bit like the hairs on the back of the neck is standing up and we've got that anger. The first thing you said was to pause.
Yep.
Second thing was to remind us of the principles of ending well and
the bigger picture.
The bigger picture.
Yep.
Are there any other things that people can do in those moments to maintain calm?
I think just generally one of the things that I try to think about in these situations is that there can be lots of kind of crises or things going on in your clinic, right? There's whether it's team or it's finances or it could be issues with clients. But I try and kind of think about trying to be like the eye of the storm. So while things are sort of like swirling around you and there's chaos happening, that as the clinic owner, you need to be the calm in the middle and not get caught into that sort of swirling around that happens or the chaos around. So trying to kind of keep that mindset of how can I be the eye of the storm, not the storm itself. So.
That's a powerful analogy. Who feels sometimes like the storm is all around us and we have to be like the eye of the storm, maintain calm and yes, absolutely. Are there any other strategies you can recommend to people around maintaining resilience and calm?
I think to be able to remain calm, you need to be able to regulate your emotions as a clinic owner. So one of the first things in regulating our emotions is to recognise what feeling am I having in that moment. So for me, it was anger that I had when the team member had resigned. And then to think about, okay, so if I'm feeling angry, what do I need to do to kind of calm that down? So with anger, you know, the general kind of response that we want to have, the natural response is to sort of attack and approach someone. So if I want to kind of calm that feeling down, I need to do the opposite of that. If it's anxiety, you want to run away from something. So if that's the natural response, is to run away. So what you would be wanting to do to calm your anxiety is to approach the thing that you're afraid of. So it's sort of recognising the feeling, doing the opposite generally of what you're feeling. Also kind of thinking about or identifying, are you having any unhelpful thoughts at that point? So for me it was, you know, oh, it's not fair and she doesn't respect me, or she's not, you know, very considerate. And really starting to go, okay, is there another way to think about this that might be more helpful?
So what happened in the end?
She finished up and, yeah, it ended as well as it could.
Great.
Yeah.
That's good. So if you were to tie this up into sort of one message for everyone here in the room, what would that be?
It's, I think, remembering that idea of sort of being the eye of the storm and thinking about what are your strategies to stay that calm centre when everything in your clinic feels like it, you know, it's swirling around or there's chaos. So I would encourage everyone to maybe write down a couple of ideas or some, you know, some thoughts that you've had of what can you do to stay that calm leader when there's a crisis or something going wrong in the clinic.
From Justine, what message do you think accommodating a team member's leave without approval sends to the rest of the team? How did you navigate that?
Well, I didn't need to navigate it in the end, but yeah, what I hadn't really thought about how I was going to approach that with the rest of the team, and that's a really good point. I think we do talk about how we're trying to create a win-win and discuss that. You know, if people were wanting to create that sort of situation, that coming and having a chat with us and working through that is something that we'd encourage.
What was the key to surviving the financial distress your clinic suffered in the past? How did you get through it without giving up?
It was actually, that was the point that I joined CM, and having kind of the support around me and, you know, knowing that there were options, there were strategies, there were things I could do to kind of get things back on track. And like once I did the deep dive into the numbers and really realised where the problem was, then it became pretty clear about, okay, I know what I need to do, I know how to fix this. So there was a lot of hope that kind of came from that.
I'm going to answer that as well because I've worked a bit with Claire. I would say massive implementer and just constantly looking for solutions. So he could have literally stacked it up, and you know, psychologists expect, you know, it to be done this way. They're contractors, they're high percentage, but looking at it, and there was also, I think, that issue, and it's ongoing in your profession of people going into the public system. But rather than looking at, we kind of looked at all of the problems, but then went, how can we flip that? And so you were constantly looking for that, change the narrative, and push forwards rather than back away from the problem.